Hello, this is Kylie J.N.S. and happy Saturday. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday. And I have a lot that I want to talk about today. And so we're going to get started. Today is a video on esoteric politics. And so it's going to be brief because we got to talk about some other things. Like we're going to be talking about kinetic energy and money uh, and what's going on in Hollywood and with the Illuminati. We'll talk about that in another video. Then we're going to talk about how to break MK Ultra, and then we're also going to do a breakdown of the recent interview with Orlando Brown and Jaguar Wright. That was some heavy stuff that flew over everybody's head, and so we want to break some things down. I can't even break everything down in that for safety reasons because they got too deep, and I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. So we'll cover that in the next video. But for this topic, esoteric politics, the illusion, behind shadow governments, and the idea of like how much power do these politicians even have in terms of the decisions that they can make, what they're allowed to say, what they're allowed to do. And so I think for my audience, we probably preaching to the choir in terms of we know that there seems to be elements of at least an oligarchy and a monarchy at the least running the system. For those who know even deeper, we get into the occult and we get into secret societies that actually maintain their power through bloodlines and through ritual to keep the system running, the governance running. And so politics is a big play. I would say it's a game, a part of an agenda that runs in obscurity. And so obviously we know about the two-party system, about Democrats, Republicans, and DNC, RNC, and they're whether or not we think they're two sides of the same coin. They are, for the most part, in terms of bloodline, but in terms of agendas, they do sometimes have disagreements within their society, within their secret society, of how they think we should run the country. Do we go with globalization over individualization, over neutralization? What type of alliances do we want to have? What type of policies do we want to see? Like, how do you mold the collective consciousness even on the perception of certain policies, whether that be the productive rights and women productive rights and fracking, all those things. The policies themselves are to mold the collective consciousness. And so then you have a two-party system, Democrats, Republicans. They come with what they are known for. Okay, one is known for being more leaning left or liberal, whatever. And the other one is more conservative, leaning right, and whatnot. And those are smoke screens. And again, those are agendas to which you shape the collective consciousness. So now you have two different sides. You have two groups that are of a certain bloodline, that run for office, get into political positions, whatever they got to do, whatever way they do it, they get into these positions. And from the top down, they are still told to follow an agenda, whether it be the agenda of the DNC or the RNC. They're still pretty much told, like these are the things we stand for. These are what is allowed to take place. This is what you are allowed to discuss on media and whatnot. And so there's obviously a shadow government behind that. And that's when, again, you want to look more into the oligarch aspects of this, the monarch aspects of this, the secret society aspect of this, and the occult aspect. If you miss all of those things, you're not going to understand the symbols, the codes that even the politicians use to communicate with one another, the agendas. Obviously, we know the term vote means to bow. So anytime you're going to vote, you're going to bow. And so you're bowing to an agenda. You're bowing to a party. Now, which party do you bow to? That's on you. I'm not here to push no agenda. Like, I'm not here to say, oh, we got to vote for the Democrats. Oh, we got to vote for the Republicans. I backed my person based on for the agenda of my own bloodline, okay, of my own agenda that is literally 10, 12, 14 years in the making. So that has nothing to do with the collective. And so I'm not here to tell Black Americans or any Americans, like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. If you ask my opinion, I'll give you my opinion and my reasoning for why I move the way I move. But I understand that this is all a charade and that this is all illusionary. And so I don't feel comfortable pushing an agenda on either side to other people. I can only push what I know and what feels comfortable with to me personally. And so there's a lot of people that see it as, okay, they don't care about us either way. These are politicians. They don't do what we ask them to do as the people. Are they really for the people? We're talking about the corruption and the illusion. We're talking about the dissatisfaction, the disenchantment that we have even with the systems and these institutions that we find ourselves somewhat even beholden to. And so, there's a lot of changes that are going to be made from 2024 through 2036. Major changes. And so people have to prepare for that. But if they don't understand and overstand that there is an illusionary aspect behind everything they think runs the system, then they're going to be lost. And when it's time for them to wake up, they may crack. They will not understand. They're going to be confused. And so we're trying to use these 4 years, at least for the transition, for people to know what the fuck is going on in a slow, methodical way. And so obviously, the candidates that we have to even carry that out is between Trump and Kamala. And I personally prefer a Trump from his stance, because he's openly stated, he will enact the death penalty for those who harm children, who harm women through exploitative practices, one of them being obviously trafficking. That's one of the main reasons. The other reason is the unpredictability that I personally need to see in a leader in terms of the puppetry. I need to know that they can at least push back on the establishment on some level, that they would have some agency, and act within their own agency, or at least they're backing up their brotherhood to get some shit done for the American people. I need to see something that is more protective of American interests. And so that's why I feel more comfortable going with Trump. And it's nothing personal, even against Kamala, because they switched the candidate. And I think that Kamala needs more development to be presidential material. Both of them do, to be honest, but to be even presidential material, I think she needs more development. I don't even think she really wants that. I can assess energy. I done had like 3 dreams of this lady over the last, since 2018. I don't know this lady, but I'm saying, like, when I say 3 dreams, like either her ancestors or like the spirits on her. And I'm esotericist and I'm a priestess, so I see things spiritually. I don't think she really wants the job, to be honest. Obviously she's beholden to her party and her people. And if Biden couldn't, if they didn't have faith and confidence in Biden, then she stepped up to the plate. But I don't think this is even an ideal situation for her. She's tired and she sees it. People see it for what it is. And I think she knows. She thinks she's a little bit in over her head in terms of, like, the presidential aspect. Vice president, you just sit and look pretty, right? And you can sit, but putting her out there without the training and without the development for that executive level, or even the will to do it, like how she says, like, it's about the will. I don't necessarily see that will there. And then we know she got her corporations that back her, and they tell her how to say things and what we gonna do and how it gets done. And I'm not gonna name the corporation that's behind it, but we know that they answer to Saturn. They answer to Saturn, in terms of what they've named themselves. And if that's true, then we should have seen these. If they've named themselves after Saturn, then they need to at least understand where Saturn is at, and not their botched version of whatever they think they know about Saturn. And so going into this age of Aquarius, this age of Saturn, as you guys say, the age of the divine feminine, the age of Christ consciousness, the age of the awakening, going into those periods, uh, there's going to be some turbulence. But what's important to understand is, especially for the oligarchs that are owed money and really make the decisions, they understand this. See, they understand this. That there's some changes that have to be made based on some, based on new revelations, based on new understandings of things. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually commendable to an extent, if we keep it authentic, because the octaves of Saturn that must be acknowledged is that we are on the cadence of pure authenticity, transparency, mystery when it's needed. Mystery when it's needed. We understand it, so you can't just go out and blurt certain things, but the authenticity, like this idea of having a shadow government or hiding behind puppets or having a banana republic or having people out in the forefront, these politicians, and then knowing how the system really runs, is not going to be sustainable, because it's going to be obvious that the systems are free falling, or in that the politicians themselves are in no position to really make the changes that the American people need to see. And so that's why there needs to be an overhaul in how we even look at politics, like American politics, and then you got Nazi politics. See, my politics, the way we look at politics, is based on governance. And I talked about it in the last video. That's based on an ethos, logos, and credos, on why you are credible in politician material. Why should you lead the people? Why should you help influence policies that run the governance of a system? Because that's what this is about. It's not about, like, because we need to push this agenda, or we corruption and bribery and suck and fuck for a deal, suck and fuck to get up there, buying people off, it's paying people to look the other way. That's not what politics is about. Politics is about good governance of empires, of civilizations. And so how do you bridge the gap interdimensionally between something that is illusionary in the matrix and real universal governance, like governance of Saturn, that you guys have been conjuring up all these years with all these rituals and all this occult shit that you've been doing? And so now you finally got the moment here. It may not be what you thought, because you guys didn't understand all of the octaves of Saturn, or even the morning star. And so no one is here to bash the humanity or bash the human race, because, to be honest, a lot of this stuff is not humanity's fault. They have to take accountability in other ways, and will have no choice but to reflect on the state of their planet and the state of their collective consciousness, on how they want to move forward to propel this universe. That work will be done, not necessarily in a political arena, because right now the political arena is too muddied, it's too crappy. It's not purified enough. And so there has to be some shakeups and some shakedowns to get us to that level. And so that would take a period of a good 8 to 12 years. You'll see some things, and you'll see a transition and within the 4 years. But yes, when we talk about esoteric politics, we know that neither party necessarily makes the decisions. That is at the hands of the corporations, the most powerful occultists in the country, the most powerful occultists and priestesses and warlocks and wizards in the country, as well as the corporations and those of the monarch bloodlines. It's as simple as that. That's how the world really runs. It's how the world really runs, through a brotherhood, through various compartmentalized societies that are highly secret. Not too secret, but with secrets, with symbols. And so, when I hear like the lay people, the average day American, they put all this pressure on these politicians, and neither one of them are going to make much of the decisions. The way I hear people just talking so ruthless and recklessly about Kamala, mind you, I'm very open that I prefer Trump. out of these two candidates. If there was a Black American candidate that I feel was running on one of these main parties, say if Cornel West would have ran even on the Democratic Party, I probably would have swung it that way because he has an agenda that aligns more with my interests. But Cornel West ran on a third party, or if he would have ran a Republican Party, I probably would have, just on principle. If RFK would have continued to ran, I like him, and I also think it was very smart for him to team up with Trump. So I like that idea of him teaming up with Trump because of his anti-corruption policies, and I like what he's doing with the Make America Healthy Again campaign, with the getting rid of the chemicals that should have been banned in America in the food. And so I like the idea of him working with Trump on that. I think he should have took the vice presidential seat, to be honest. I really don't understand why he didn't do that. But, who knows? Maybe he wasn't prepared for that. Maybe he felt like that's, doing too much or whatever what was required. It's like, no, I don't want to be the vice president. I'll just work with the cabinet. Maybe that was his decision. But, I was hearing people just like, they just calling Kamala, like getting so angry at her, calling her all these B words, all this stuff. Mainly a lot of men. She don't make no decisions. I mean, you guys hear that lady in her interviews talking. She like to do her little thing and get her dance on. And my thing is like, I don't think she's presidential material at all. But I don't have an issue with her. Like, I think like, in the proper context, she probably wouldn't even be that bad, as far as like, the auntie that likes to drink and get her dance on. She like to do her cooking, as she say. She like to cook and shit, get her dance, or like to do her. Like I'm telling you, I'll be seeing her. She like to do her drink and her laugh, her drink and her laugh, and I think that she's capable of having, roles in governance, probably, not at the presidential level, not even at the executive level. I don't even think as a vice president. And maybe she'll take that personal. Maybe she'll just be like, oh, who are you to say that? But I mean, this is just an observation of what I see. I mean, it's just obvious, the scripting that they have to do around her interviews, it's too much puppetry. And that backfires. Like that level, having that level of control over your presidential candidates, even if they are part of the bloodline, because you know that they'll do the agenda or whatever, that ends up backfiring to the American people, because the American people can see through it. And they know what presidential material should look like. You should at least just be able to just do at the basics, the interview of asking certain questions and flow a coherent answer to some of those questions, basic questions, especially if you get the questions in advance, or the audience that you that will be viewing the interview or this based on the station. And so, I think that there's a danger in those corporations choosing puppets that are not presidential that material. They don't quite even know how to be a liaison. It's I guess the way they want it set up is this just total control over whoever they put in those positions. Perhaps that's through blackmail. Perhaps that's just through them just being a puppet. And again, I mean, no offense to anyone. It's just a little disturbing to see. It is, because at that level of then you're thinking like, okay, are all these actors, and then you have obviously the shadow government running things behind the system. And there's a part of that that's true. Some of these people literally are actors, reality TV show, or they got in through, meeting the right people and whatnot. And so, or knowing the right people. But like the last, even if you have to play the role of presidential material, you still have to play that role. I think the last person that played that role really well was Obama. Now, obviously, it wasn't long term. He doesn't have longevity in terms of playing that role, because you have to again. That's when we talk about this thing of authenticity. That's what's missing. So then, yeah, you may have an 8-year run where you can fool the people, but you can only fool them some of the time. So then the other times, once they wake up and they realize, okay, this ain't really what Obama didn't really do that for us, whatever. But I think as far as like playing the role of presidential material during the campaign, I think Obama did a good job of that. You have JFK, obviously, you have Roosevelt. Um, that I can think of that's played that this had the package. And there were probably others that just didn't win. I think Al Gore was pretty decent too. Um, Bill Clinton, but we're talking about like that's still the facade. That's still the illusion of what this is all about. These are people that these are the most politicians are occultists, and they um, carry out rituals to get things done for the higher agenda of the orders that they belong to. And that translates into the way you govern the people. But you must understand what government means. Government means to govern your mind. The mental space is mind control. Government means govern your mind, the state of condition of your mind. You can look that up. Like, that's not something that isn't new. And so it should be obvious that there's an element here, especially when we talk about, U.S. bonds, and we don't even want to get into admiralty law and your birth certificate and all that. And we're not getting into all of that as far as the corporation of the U.S. and what it means when, you're born as a United States citizen. I'm not going that deep into that because that's, again, as above, so below. You have to know the occult to know those things. And we just don't, but I don't have the time to track that because other people have done that research. If you guys want to know more about that, you go to Jordan Maxwell, and he talks about the law of admiralty and the law of commerce and the law of water. If you guys want to understand more of what it means with the occult level of to be a part of the U.S. corporation as a citizen, what your birth certificate means, what you mean as a bond, and whatnot, especially if your issuance a part of military, like these stuff gets deep. It gets really deep. And so, yeah, there is a shadow government. That government is ran interdimensionally. The highest levels of government is ran interdimensionally, meaning by principalities, occultists that can obviously travel interdimensionally, wizards, warlocks, priestesses, high priestess, that belong to compartmentalized secret societies. That will no longer be the case. It will still be ran that way, but as far as having to belong to the Masons or having to be a Mason, like that is not going to no longer be the case because there has been enough energy and there has been enough penetration to where we need to allow more for the good governance, or else things free fall and things will continue to free fall. But good governance by those who have the will to do the job and are the material to do the job. And so it will still be ran interdimensionally, but the people that's running it interdimensionally, those things will all be different to an extent. And how that translates into 3D, 4D, 5D will look different as well. And so you have to prepare for that. Americans have to prepare for that. I mean, you may not even have you may not even have an election in November. And if you don't, that is more so of a shakeup. That's more of a mechanism, a technique to kind of it won't mean anything in a grand scheme of things for at the higher levels, but for the American people, it's just to jar them a little bit, and that's because you're waking up a little too slow, and so we kind of need you to wake up a little quicker, and so if you see some scuttlebutt around the election, we still the person that's gonna go to it's gonna get to it. They're gonna be chosen and selected. It is what it is, but. And then again, this is for the adepts, and this is for people that understand what I'm saying. If you see a postpone of the election or a cancellation or weird shit, that's for the American people to kind of start to think. That's to get them to open up their eyes. It's not necessarily for those of us that already know what's going on. And so it's more so like, guys, like, wake up a little bit more. That's pretty much what you would need to take from that. That's if that we go that route, but it's a possibility, and I thought, throw it out there. It is totally a possibility. But as far as like how we approach these politicians, I would say start to look at the corporations that back them and at them, get at them. They're the ones that are behind a lot of this stuff. Um, like you'll see me at when I talk about certain things. I don't mind adding Elon. I know exactly who Elon is backing, Peter Thiel, whoever, the DOD, the military industrial complex runs a lot of stuff. Believe it or not, make a lot of decisions at the highest levels. Should I add them? As far as knowing what's going on, but getting at like even Kamala and Trump. Trump has a little more awareness, and he speaks up more, and we know that his agenda is an American first agenda, and so and then also anti-corruption, and then cracking down on what's happening to these kids. Now, that doesn't mean he's perfect, and it doesn't even mean he's the best choice. But in the two-party system, and given even where everybody is at in a collective consciousness, this is still the reality for now. It's a shaky reality, but it is still the reality, one of them. And so the shadow government is backed by Saturn interdimensionally. Saturn has ran through this bitch like a tornado, though, and started to shake up the actual governance, because the highest octaves of Saturn requires authenticity, and it requires like revelation of truth and enlightenment and innovation and creativity, karma, learning lessons, and education. That's a part of Saturn as well. Old energy, primordial energy of that value structure, that values order, but is not afraid of risk, and is not afraid to evolve, and is not afraid of truth. There's nothing to hide. Saturn is not a bitch that's gonna hide. It's like, this is what you're getting. But it definitely has to be authentic in whatever you do at the higher levels. Now, there's a level of Saturn that manages waste. And for a long time, humans have been allowed to dump their waste from planet Earth into that octave of Saturn. Like literally an octave of Saturn. It's one of the lowest ones, though. It is the lowest one. It's the receptacle one. That octave. And it's been allowed. We've been monitoring, watching, seeing what's going on. And that has been allowed for such a time. It's not allowed anymore. Like that you filled it up. And now that has to be transmuted and dumped. But it also has to be reflected back onto planet Earth. You have to fix your shit. And if you want to work with that energy of Saturn, it has to be at the authentic level. And that goes for all the other planets. Even if you thought you were gonna, okay, we don't want to fuck with Saturn no more because we don't like how you're not allowing us to continue to do what we have been doing, because you guys you stole knowledge that maybe not humanity stole the knowledge, but being entities stole knowledge that was taught to humanity that was botched. Whether humans also misinterpreted shit. And yes, there was fights among certain bloodlines and selling out of bloodlines that even got their hands on certain information that they didn't have no business even reading, let alone they didn't understand it. They were not at the level of consciousness to interpret it properly, or don't have the light codes to activate it properly. So certain bloodlines sold, those melanated bloodlines sold other melanated nobility bloodlines out to other beings, made pacts and beings for power, also created species, put other species in power, and still hid behind them. Okay. That's way too deep. We won't get into all of that. But I just want people to know, like, demand things stand collectively as well, and demand your needs be met. If you're going to participate in an illusion system, if you know you're going to be in 3D, you don't have no interest in evolving past 3D, 4D, or 5D, make sure that your needs are met by your government. Question everything. Question the way the governance is ran. But remember that, imagine politics outside of the matrix. Imagine politics outside of the way America taught you, the way school taught you. Reimagine governance. What is politics? Like, it's not, it doesn't have to be like this corrupt, this thing where we're like, okay, we can't trust no politicians and all that. That's just the way the state of consciousness is on this planet that created that atmosphere based on the actions and the deception. It's like a feedback loop. It doesn't have to be what it means, you know, or how it's perceived, rather, or how it's perceived. But yes, demand stuff. Demand from your government that is in your best interest as the people. I mean, is for the government, for the people, by the people. And so politics obviously comes from affairs. It means affairs of the cities, affairs of the empire, affairs of governance. It's the way that people living in groups make planned decisions. Politics is about making agreements between people so they can to live together in groups such as tribes, cities, or countries. Okay. That's the definition of politics. It's not, okay, take a bribe, suck a dick so you can move up. That's not the definition of politics. Sleep with someone so you can get a position as city council. That's not what I see in politics. Politics is what people living in groups do to make planned decisions. An agreement between people so that they can live together efficiently as a tribe, city, or a country. Okay? And so you educate your citizens. You have checks and balances. You involve the citizens in laws and policies. Okay. And so citizens do not rule themselves unless they directly decide their laws and policies. It is to engender character in citizens. That's why government means government mind control. And, making citizens feel part of the tribe, a part of the country, to perform noble actions. But they have to have their needs met. And so right now, the American people are totally suffering, totally under psychosis, mass psychosis, and global mind control. But that's too deep for this video. But yeah, totally under a spell. And so eventually that spell is wearing off, and so they're going to start to ask questions about taxes, questions about housing, questions about inflation, these things, and that's obvious. And so the governance has to be done the way you view politics itself. It's about the agreement that people can live together in groups as tribes and countries. Okay, you make a lot of your time making agreements, and those people that make those decisions are the politicians. And we have a hybrid system. Yes, it's democracy, monarchy, oligarchy, hybrid. Those things have to be reimagined. We're talking about this unity party. It's interesting. I'm interested in it. I know the military's behind it. And so we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But just know that people can pick up on the little things. If it doesn't have an air of authenticity, if it's too psyopy, there's going to be pushback by the American people, because they're going to feel it has to be, you have to have real motherfuckers that are trusted by the people if you're going to go that route, as far as like this unity party thing. It's an option though. And then also the corporations have to be willing to bridge that gap between governance itself, the politicians, and the government. If the corporations do not see their role in the governance as a benevolent role for the people, then they're going to inevitably be pushed back against. And so they have to be seen as a benevolent role, not necessarily a hidden role, because everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about BlackRock and that shit, and Peter Thiel's backing, the Palantir, whatever. But if they don't see themselves, if they don't know the position that they play in governance as it relates to planetary alignments and the people themselves, if they cannot bridge that gap, in a way where it's not so much you're controlling the politicians like as a puppet, but You truly understand what the people need and what the people want, what is innovative, what is productive, um, and willing to make those changes, then you'll also see your systems free fall, because it has to be, everything that we do now has to be based on the truth. And any nation that will not stand on the truth will fall. You know, there was this post, man, I wanted, maybe, did I get the post? I don't have time to find it, but there was a post that Elon Musk had shared about like Rome, what Rome was doing as, but right before they fell. And I was interested. Man, I wish I had that post, because it would jar back my point that I had wanted to make when he had shared that. Matter of fact, I think I may have it here actually. But yeah, he shared like a post, and I wanted, what was Rome doing before? It was like they were saying something, but it's the same thing that's pretty much happening here. Oh, they were importing like, you know, like all these different people in, and they were doing a lot of these nonsensical sacrifices and nonsensical things that just weren't working. But, you know, it's a new governance, it's a new shakeup, it's a new change of guard. And it's still based on the bloodline, but it's also who Lucifer turned the treaty over to. Yeah, we get interdimensional. It is what it is. You know, people don't like to listen to prophecies. People don't like to listen to the truth. And so, you know, there will be egregores sent to keep this system going in a transitional state for the next 4 years, but with truth, with the goal of making people aware of what's going on and reassessing what's going on, as well as making this changing of the guard for a system that is in more balance and in tune with the universe. Getting rid of the corruption, being fair to American citizens, which includes Black Americans, honoring the treaty, which went to the tribe of Judah, my bloodline, and the person who was chosen to steer America into the golden age. We got a good 12 to 16 years to fully carve all that out. So we're not worried about that right now. We know that we're at 4 years. We've got the person that we would like. We have the two candidates that's running. Either way, whoever wins gets, our agenda gets done, but we do have a preference for who we have chosen, because we understand who's backing both of these people. We have to stop trying to hold certain people back. We have to stop trying to ignore certain aspects of prophecy because you guys didn't understand the information you were dabbling in, or the fallen angels lied to you about it. And right now I'm talking to the highest levels. I'm talking to the shadow government. Not the politicians. They may not even know what I'm talking about. Some of them do, because some of them are occultists. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know. But yeah, these corporations, y'all named y'all shit after my stuff. Y'all literally named y'all shit after my dimension, my shit, my people. And so there's no smoke. You know, I just see the game for what it is. I just see the game for what it is, but I'm not about to sit and play that game either, when we know that we want to see a change of guard. And we're not that we're going to see, it's already happening. It's already was announced in 2022. It was announced again in 2023. We saw all what's going on through 2024, 2025. It's really about to it's about to go there. Okay, so reimagine governance. Governance is the state of condition, to govern the state of a condition, and then so it's to oversee a condition, to rule over a state of being. And so that state of being is the golden age of America, and that state of being is catching up people, catching up the American people, getting them up to guard, not just in consciousness and enlightenment, but for America itself, getting them to collectively work together on things that are innovative, intelligent, bold, that put us on the map, that keep us at the frontier of this new system that's being ushered in. or you'll see other things happen. You know, it doesn't have, it could, we could do it the easy way or the hard way. And so I'm gonna end that on here. We're gonna be back though with, which one do I want to cover next? Maybe we'll do kinetic energy versus money. We want to do kinetic energy versus money next. And we're going to be talking about why celebrities decide to trade their kinetic energy for money, fiat currency. We're going to be talking about how that happens, how people get tricked out of their kinetic energy. We're going to be talking about the chimera monarchs, or spiritual chimeras, and how that relates to kinetic energy, as well as how you can combine spirits and combine. It's a very heavy topic, but we really want to talk about like how the bloodline families kind of tricked humanity into valuing money over their own kinetic energy, and so it's the parasitic narcissistic system that's set up, and how it's used to brainwash people, and to deceive people, to be quite frank. But you don't have to be deceived. The information is out there. People have been screaming from the rooftop about these things. And so at this point, if you are deceived, that is your fault. Hey, Carl, Eric, hey, Johansson. Oh, that's a pretty name. I like your last name. And I will pronounce you 1111. What's up? Oh, hey, guys. Appreciate you guys stopping by. So we're about to end this, and then we'll come back. So talk to you guys later. Bye.